Good morning, everyone. I hope everyone is having a fantastic day or afternoon, evening, whatever time it is for you. We are here today for our second round of racing in Phoenix Simsport. We are at Imola, as
So,
you should hopefully all know. It will be a
mhm.
15-minute qualifying today with the 45-minute race. We do a shorter race when the qualifying is shorter, or a shorter qualifying when the race is shorter, whatever works best. This is a wet race, although there is a slight chance that the conditions will change, and that slight chance over a long time period will result in some change throughout the race. It could get heavier rain, it could get lighter rain, and there's a chance that there's no rain at all. So we will have to see how that turns out. I hope everyone has prepared adequately for the changing conditions. It is something we are doing this season, so keep up with all the different races because the weather conditions are variable. It will be around about 22 degrees ambient temperature, although that will rise and fall as the day does go on. I think we are right around there right now, so not much to worry about. The walls are very close on the straightaway. That is the about the only hazard with walls you will have. Through the exit of the first little section, you might have an encounter with the wall if you run a little bit wide. That grass is very slippery when wet. Track limits here at Imola are very strict, so you are very likely to get a off track if you go over the white lines or if you get too close to the white lines. So please be very cautious, especially when dealing with all the curbs. There's no reason to take the risk. Speaking of the curbs, these curbs are especially dangerous when wet. I'm sure you all have done a little bit of practice already, have done the driving needed to figure out what curbs are slippery and what curbs are not. That will change throughout the race as well as curbs dry off, curbs get wetter. Uh, it is changing conditions. Imola is quite an easy track to overtake on, especially in the wet. There's lots of opportunity for nice dives, lots of opportunity to just wait for a mistake. So do not be overeager with your overtaking maneuvers. Risky sectors are Sector 1 is your risky sector. That is where most drivers will be having trouble, although there's a couple corners in Sector 2 and Sector 3 that will throw drivers off, and Sector 3 is one of the biggest time differences we saw yesterday in practice for pace difference. Blue flags. Just reminding everyone about blue flags. You have one sector and the next sector in order to let a faster car by. Obviously, if it's somehow impossible to do that, we will take a look at it on a case-by-case basis. But please let faster drivers through in a nice, predictable manner, and do not break off the racing line in unpredictable ways. Just lift if you want to let them by on a straightaway, or generally let them make their move on their own time, as those drivers have a lot more pace than you, so they are likely to just drive on by. Pit lane exit. The pit lane exits straight into the first corner, straight into the racing line. So if you are on the track, please be cautious about drivers exiting the pits. And if you are in the pit lane, please be cautious about drivers on track. During the qualifying, you will be required to wait in the pit lane if the pit exit is not clear. Do not pull out of the pit exit in front of another driver who is on a hot lap. You will get hit with a penalty, and it will mess up your race before you even get to start. Today, it will be a short formation lap. Again, it is only a 45-minute race, so you do not have to go all the way around the track. I know a lot of drivers are going to be very happy about that one. Qualifying. Please do not overtake in the last sector. I mean, there's no real good overtaking opportunities, but just slow down, get your tires heated up, and you will get a penalty if you do overtake in that final sector on the outlap. Microphones, if you do have a microphone with a lot of background noise or uh, your microphone picks up a lot of your breathing, please mute it. Everyone will be required to stay within this voice call for the duration of qualifying, just so you can notify if something happens on track and people need to avoid. Say you spin out in turn one, you can say, "Watch out, turn one, I spun." Or if you need to pass someone, you can ask them if they're on a hot lap. It generally keeps the race going a lot smoother, if drivers can work together during qualifying to make everything go smooth. Again, be very cautious on pit exit. It will bring you straight out into the racing line, and if you hold up another driver because you're exiting the pits, you will get hit with the penalty for that, and that penalty will ruin your race. Reports. I hope you all saw how many reports we had yesterday. We had 67 contacts. Only about 28 of them ended up as reports. So we do our best with the penalties. Sometimes we will make a controversial call. It's all right if you have any disagreements. We do have an appeal system, so you can appeal the decision, provide new evidence, explain a different side of the story that we might have missed. But generally, you should be providing all of that when the report is first made. We will report any incident with contact, but again, please provide POV, provide a response. Generally, provide some information to us that helps us out. You will get a penalty if we do ask for it or if your response is inadequate. Streaming today, it is being streamed on the Phoenix Sim Sport Twitch channel, I do believe. I would hope so, as I am the one streaming. No highlights this season, but steward reports are being done by Uzubi, who did a fantastic job last week. I just want to point out all the work that he does for the server. I mean, he's doing half my job already, and he's over here driving at the front of the field as well. So uh, Uzubi does an amazing job, and we all appreciate him. Without further ado, if there are any questions, now is the time to ask. It's better to ask a stupid question early than to find out while you are out on track. Uh, there is
Can I
no
take out
stupid
Maverick?
questions. Can you what?
Take out Maverick.
Oh yeah, everyone gets one free take out Maverick token.
Don't, because that actually happens whenever people say that.
I think
Wait,
I think
It was
can I
Maverick.
vote for a
I have a
standing
question.
start?
I think we always say it, so anytime there's a contact with Maverick, it's already been said.
Is there a mandatory pit stop?
There is no mandatory pit stop on our 45-minute race, so if you do
Alright.
pit, it's going to be of your own volition.
Okay, thank you.
Which makes strategy even freaking harder. So this is gonna be really tough.
Just drive.
Just don't
Drive
crash.
cash
And then you're
I
fine.
feel like
Drive.
I feel like I
Let's hope
spent
on
more time
our
talking this
too.
briefing than before.
Yeah.
Yeah, you definitely have.
Chris Hughes, I don't think we can hear you. Try speaking now.
Alright, can you hear me by chance?
There
you
we go.
Yeah, we can hear you now. Yep.
Alright, thanks.
Welcome. Glad to have you here.
Quite nervous. More nervous than I thought I would be here.
Good luck,
Don't worry.
guys. Good luck.
You
Don't
will
worry,
drive.
just,
You will drive
take it easy out
faster
there.
the more relaxed
Enjoy.
you can be.
Yeah.
I just can't
So,
figure out the tires here.
Today will be tough on tires. It is the weather is going to be a bit weird today, so it's a bit of a baptism of fire. But
Whoa.
take it easy. Enjoy yourself out there, and yep, we'll see you on
Alright.
the other side.
I am going
Not-
to I'm gonna move calls.
Not-
You all have a good race, and I will see you all on
Yeah.
stream. Transitioning between the different spots. So this is why we would be seeing a different car when we looked at the Ferrari, and his livery is not showing up. So that is unfortunate. You can see the USA McLaren I did not have downloaded at Paul Ricard. Kelly's livery is working though. We can see a very nice looking Ferrari. A very Italian Ferrari as well. So we'll have to see what Uzubi did to mess up his livery after the race. Because I can see Kelly's. The only difference on them is the numbers on the back and the name on the back and the numbers on the car. Kelly is the 91 driver and Uzubi is the 29 driver. So two teammates driving with very different numbers, unless you change out the 142, and then Kelly's number is just the flip side of Uzubi's. He's going to make up an overtake nice and early, make sure he can get ahead of some of the drivers he believes he will be faster than. The track conditions are dry right now, so qualifying will come down to this first First 10 minutes of driving, after all, as soon as it starts raining, uh, as soon as it starts raining heavier, it will be, well, it will be much slower on track. So if they can't get their laps in now, they will not have a faster lap by the end of qualifying. So it is hammer time right away, right off the brink. That's why we're seeing Kelly jump the gun so much, is because he needs to get to the front. He needs to get those laps in. The sooner you get those laps in, the faster you are compared to other drivers. After all, water's still being laid down on track. Water is coming down and building up on those curbs, and we do have a yellow flag towards that third sector. Drivers will be able to get by it just fine. So it is qualifying here at Imola, and Kelly across the line as the first driver to start a lap. We will stay on board with him, just see what he's able to do as one of the first drivers and see how that pace affects the drivers behind him as the track does start to get wet. We will see. You can see in the top right, it is greasy track conditions, which means the track is still not grippy, but it's also not wet. You'll see that transition to damp, you'll see it transition to wet, and potentially flooded if the track it does get enough rain. Although with over 30 cars on track, there's not a chance that we are going to get flooded conditions. The GT3s are very good at clearing water, very good at getting rid of those puddles that would hamper a good lap. The tires they do use are wet tires or slick tires, but everyone's going to be using everyone's going to be using one or the other, and the wet tires are very good at clearing water, and the slick tires, with the weight of the cars, will also be very good at clearing water. GT3 cars are some of the heavier race cars out there, so you can already see a little bit of a dry line forming. The dry line is where cars have cleared that moisture, as I was talking about, where cars have been driving, and that dry line is as it sounds, it is dry, because no water has a chance to build up there. From my experience with real driving, as long as the track is not super wet, you're going to have grip and you're going to be on the line. But as soon as that water builds up heavier, which we will see in that 10 minutes time, as soon as that water starts to come down heavier, that's when you start to see cars slipping and a lot of trouble. Kelly does have provisional pole with a 1:48.0, so Kelly is on the pace, although that will be quickly taken away by the Ferrari driver of Huntema. And Huntema will keep that first place for the time being. Ferrari is quite a good car in the rain. It's very stable. It also allows you to rotate where you need it. Tashini taking the lap just after Jay Lin did. So Jay Lin moves down to P2, and Tashini moves up to P1. Tashini was a driver running P4 last race at Hungaroring. Jay Lin was in first, and now, while Jay Lin did not finish in first, Jay Lin unfortunately lost it with the pit stop transition period. So we expect to see him do a lot better without those pit stops. Shanae does go into P1 with a 1:45.5. So it's Shanae, then Tashini, then Andrew Taggart for taking P3 here. Fantastic drive from the marvelous McLaren. Managing to build that gap. I wonder if the track is starting to dry out. So we are seeing a decent order shuffle here. And a couple drivers we expect to set a lap have not gone to the front, have not gone anywhere near the front. No lap from Uzubi just yet. Uzubi was our race winner last week, so we are hoping that he will do similar this week. John is on a good lap here. He is 7/10 up. That will put him up a decent amount of positions. That may well be enough to go on to the second row if he can manage to hold on to the pace through these final corners across the line. We will see what time he manages to do. He does lose a little bit out of that final corner, so he's not going to gain nearly as many positions as he would hope to, but he should be about P7 by the time he crosses the line. And no, only P8, and only P8 by a by a tenth of a second, he manages just falling to the back of P7, who is stuck on the side of the road. Will retire the car back to the pit lane. Drivers are allowed to use the return to pits button. It just keeps everything going smoother. Make sure that drivers don't end up stranded. Lexus driver was on a good lap, but unfortunately he will be held up by traffic. He was a driver who led a single lap of the race last week at Hungaroring. A driver we did not expect to lead a single lap of the race. Tashini is on a, while he was on a green time, he has fallen back a tenth, so commentators curse for him. It will happen where drivers do gain a little bit of time. If they brake very late for a corner, they will gain time on their delta, but that delta will immediately drop on exit because they will not get the exit they need in order to set a good time. Shanae is on a 0-0. He was on a little bit of a green. You can see how many cars there are. It is that scramble for qualifying. And right now, we're not seeing a lot of improvement for drivers as Jalen gets held up by a bunch of drivers. We're not seeing a lot of improvement, and we're not going to see a lot of improvement. The track condition has gone to damp, so drivers who want to improve their lap need to do exceptionally, and it's going to be very difficult to say what will and what will not work. You can see that dry line is starting to fade. So this might well be the end of qualifying before it even got started. As Art does come across the line, moves himself up into P15, so a nice lap from him. In these very tricky conditions, those will move him up towards the safer position. There are points for the top 20 drivers. As we see Chris come across the line, he does not manage to improve his lap enough to move up any positions. And generally, we're not seeing any improvement for any of the top drivers. The top 10 has all stagnated now that the conditions have worsened, and that's pretty much how it's gonna go. I mean, I wouldn't expect drivers to even be qualifying anymore if they're driving right now. It's probably just to get the practice in, because you're just gonna lose time. Just gonna lose time. Just gonna wear down on tires. They do have as many tire sets as they need. If they're going through 50 tire sets, I would be quite shocked. So, not going to be a worry there. But yeah, every single driver is on a negative delta, besides for Vade, who is unfortunately going to lose that delta as soon as he goes through a slippery section of the track. You can see the spray already coming out of the back of the car. Those tires do kick up a lot of water. I told you, they do clear the water, and fortunately Chris has to pull off the racing line. Drivers may well be on slicks, or at least were on slicks while the track was greasy. It is the ideal tire compound for it. And now that they're having to transition over to the wet tires, they're never going to be able to beat their lap, as Tashini is on a looks like an outlap, a very slow outlap. But yeah, we will not see any more improvement from our drivers. So this is essentially the official results, with Shanae taking P1 with the fastest third sector, Tashini with the fastest first sector, and Cruncho Blin with the fastest middle sector. So a nice little trio up at the front. Uzubi, where is he? Last race's winner. Is nowhere to be seen. I don't have him on my list. Oh, don't tell me he lost connection. It would be unfortunate. We did see Uzui have a lot of technical issues on last season. No, he's P11 right now. There he is. P11 for last race's winner, and for a driver who's been setting very fast laps for the free practice session yesterday. It's interesting to see him towards the back of the field. Outside of that top 10 is not where he wants to be, especially when the track conditions are so difficult. Thankfully, he will have a decent chance to pass a lot of drivers. But right now, our qualifying session is essentially over. So we have Andrew Taggart in P4, Thiessen rounding out the top 5. Jay Lin, who was running first place at Hungaroring, is now 6th place here. Kelly has done fantastic in qualifying to put himself in P7. No doubt thanks to his haste in getting out on track, his haste in getting those laps down, and generally being a very consistent driver. We've seen great things from Kelly in the past seasons. He did manage to finish P3 in the drivers' standings for season 6, so it is undoubtedly his race to win. He has done very well in wet conditions. Hutama, a driver we saw take pole position initially, did have that pole position stripped from him, and now he is P8 in that Ferrari, and Jay Lung in that Sim Racing Brotherhood livery, just going through turn 1. He manages a P9, and Skoten, a little bit of a merge there, is rounding it out in P10 in that Lexus. And then Yuzubi for P11. That is unfortunate to see, but we'll see where he ends up as the race goes on. He is quite a talented driver, so if he can overtake the field, he will overtake the field. Although I do not have my hopes if he's starting P11 after a tricky qualifying. It is a race all about strategy calls. And if you make the wrong strategy calls, you're going to end up towards the back. Uzbi may well have put on wet tires. He may well have been a little bit slow getting out there, didn't see the changing conditions. And if he doesn't see those conditions, he can't react to them. And we talked about it a little bit at the beginning of qualifying. Drivers were in a hurry to get onto those laps. Drivers who saw the weather forecast especially were on a hurry to get onto those laps, as the track was mostly dry and then the track turned very wet. So not a single driver will improve their lap, or at least improve their position. At least I would think so. It'd be oh no, we did see Vade move up quite a few positions from P29 to P26. So towards the back of the field, we are seeing a little bit of improvement, as those are some of the drivers who have not set a lap yet. We do have quite a few drivers who have not set a lap yet in P32 all the way to P34, and they will cross the line unable to finish a lap. So we go on board with pretty much anyone right now. There is virtually no improvement, which is odd to say in a qualifying session where half the session is spent just watching drivers go around and essentially do free practice, as no driver here is going for laps anymore. I wouldn't be surprised if drivers have just thrown on their race setups, thrown on their fuel, and are just checking the tire temps, checking the car condition, and checking their fuel usage, because there's really no reason to expect anything more of the drivers. They have already finished qualifying. They already have their official laps. So as said, Shanae takes pole position with Tashini in P2 and Crunchon in P3. So BMWs and a Lamborghini for the top 3. BMWs and Lamborghini all struggled at Hungaroring, so it's nice to see them towards the front of the field now. As you can see the list on the left, lots of variety in the cars here. Wet conditions are the great equalizer between good car and good driver. If you have a good car, you're not necessarily going to do well in the wet, but if you are a good driver, you will do well in the wet regardless of what car you have, as wet conditions essentially limit how much power you can put down, how much extra driving has to be done to make a slow car fast and a fast car slow. So that is the end of qualifying. It is a short formation lap, so we will get on with the race rather abruptly, or rather quickly. A couple drivers did not manage a lap from P31 downwards. Drivers did not manage to finish a lap, so struggling with the conditions a little bit, or serving a pit lane start, although I don't think any drivers have a pit lane start. I could be very mistaken. As you can see just how many cars we have on track. The one thing about virtual racing that is nice is we can have more cars on track than pit boxes in the garage. If we do have too many drivers for the pit boxes, it will just put a driver in the same pit box as another driver. There is no issue with that, and it allows us to have a grid of well, what is well over 30 cars. We can just go through and have a look at some of the liveries, perhaps, if it lets us see the front of the field, which it will not, because why would it? But you can see just how many cars we have on track, just how many drivers showed up for this race. It's fantastic to see, and I appreciate everyone who shows up to the Phoenix races. We can only see about 20 cars back right now, so there's a whole 1.5 or 1.0 times more drivers towards the back there. You can see all of the cars on track, so fantastic to see how many drivers showed up. The two teammates in the Aston Martin rounding up the back of the field in P36, P35. P34 goes to the Audi driver, and very dry conditions right now. We'll have to see. It is greasy conditions, and it's greasy conditions for the next 30 minutes. So drivers will be essentially driving with slick tires, and if it starts to rain sooner, then drivers will have to pit for tires or deal with the consequences. Ferrari driver, that is Curie in P32. Very nice livery that we can finally see on track. We do have that Aston Martin that we saw a little bit earlier, the one that confused me so much when we looked at Uzubi. Ferrari in P30. So Joven has just rounded out the field. We have Antonio in P29 and Thondir in P28 with that beautiful looking livery. Thondir is one of the best livery designers in the entire league right now. So we always appreciate seeing what he has come up with. And then we have Chris in P27. I don't know nearly as much about Chris. Vade I have raced on track. I've had quite the run-in with Vade on track, so a little bit of drama between us, but it's all in good fun. Apologies for that. Spinner with the fiercely forward livery, right there in the midfield with the mid on the side. So right about where a car with those words should be. But although we will see him move forward, I'm sure. He did a very good job yesterday in the practice session, so he has enough experience with the track right now to move forward. We have Kevin, who is Maverick's teammate, just a little bit far back at the field, P24, although we will also expect to see him move forward, hopefully, as the race goes on. We have Donnie in the BMW, who is a new driver to Phoenix Sim Sports, so welcome to the league. Sealy Harvey, who I can finally see the livery of, a fantastic American livery for a non-American track. We will see this livery at COTA, I sure hope. It'll be very, very nice at COTA, Circuit of the Americas, for anyone who does not know what I'm referring to. We have Wabi, whose livery has not showed up, so unfortunate for that. We will have to look afterwards and go through and see what went wrong with the liveries. Getting the liveries uploaded, we do use awesome sim racing, so drivers who do upload can can share their liveries with the entire league. We have a very nice looking BMW who we can't get the best of angles on right now, but we will see during the race, no doubt. He is in P20, so he is in the final points paying position. We have Ramazzotti in the P19 Ferrari, the 666. Tumara in that McLaren. It is just a default made in-game livery. We will start to see cars started. That V12 Aston Martin managing to make it into the points. So a car that we don't expect to see very often, making it into those points-paying positions. So nice to see from him. Arced, we finally see his livery on track, so that's very nice. P16 for him. And that's about all we're going to have time for, as we'll just click through. Boosty does have to start in the pit lane, as he does not press drive in time. So P13 is going to turn into P36 for him, unfortunately. Just watching Shanae. Shanae in that Team Diamond Lamborghini is starting the race for us, is at the front of the field. Tashini rounding out that front row. Crunchon in P3 did a fantastic job, and then we have Andrew Taggart in P4. A front position for him. Last time he was in the front was unfortunately when I took him out, so it'd be nice to see him get some revenge and actually take the race win. Although the drivers he's going up against are incredibly quick, so it will be a test of strategy. It will be a test of consistency for all of our drivers to see where they end up. Kelly out-qualifying his teammate is something that we did not expect to see, but we are going to go green here, as Imola has quite an odd starting procedure. You can see the red lights on the side, well, not anymore, as Shanae brings us towards turn 1, and it's green, 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 and away we go for the Italian Grand Prix. Tashini gets a much better run through turn 1, or down into turn 1, as the drivers all brake and get slowed down. A big incident at the back of the field. We will have to look at that afterwards as they go side by side up front. Tashini will have to just slot back in behind, and Crunchon managing to keep his position. Andrew Taggart going 3 wide, and he's going to lose out on one position. He might lose out on another as he goes side by side through a very tricky first corner. He will slot back in, but he has lost out and has gone down to P6, and now almost P7 as Hutama thinks about making a move down the inside of the marvelous McLaren. Not getting the start he needed. The McLaren has trouble firing up its tires for the formation lap. It's a huge incident, and I'm just wondering if it's going to take out any other drivers. No, very thankfully, it's just those 2 drivers and no one else involved, but big incidents here as Tashini and Shanae run away with it. Jalen very close on the back of Thiessen, and very, very big incidents here for the start of the Italian Grand Prix, for the start of this Imola race. And we'll have to go back and look at them once we get an opportunity, as Jalen just runs wide. He will get a track limits warning for that. You do get 4 track limits warnings, and then it is a penalty. As BMW and Lexus go side by side, that is Alvito managing to make a move. Although the Lexus will hold it on the brakes, and the Lexus will go around the outside for the defense, and a Ferrari thinks about making it around the outside. Ferrari will get a much better run. I expect him to take the position on the straightaway here. This is Uzubi making up a position into P10. He will go side by side down into turn 1 as Thiessen closes in on Crunchon Blin for P3. We will keep an eye on that as well. As side by side down into turn 1 for Uzubi. We expect him to make his way through the field. He is a very quick driver. He is a driver who won the last race, as I will continue to repeat, as Crunchon has an off track and goes down to P6. I was wondering what happened there. We will just quickly look at it on replay. and hope that nothing else happens. But down at turn 1, Thiessen right behind him, and it looks like Thiessen may have just overcooked it on the brakes. No, it looks like Crunchon just lost it a little bit on exit, hit that curb, and then tagged the back of Thiessen. He will be at fault for that. He will not receive a penalty for that, as there was nothing he could really do. And then you can see Hutama does get very, very close. Team orders for the Italian Stallions. Uzubi getting past Kelly, and Uzubi making his way past a spinning Lexus. Kelly will be wanting to follow his teammate here and just see where the team can end up, where the team can gain throughout this race. Kelly and Uzubi are both teammates. Unfortunately, their liveries are not matching right now as we can't see Uzubi's. But yeah, those two Ferrari drivers you see as a Crunchon. No, yes, Crunchon very slow up ahead. Lots of mistakes for the drivers. And that will just gift Uzubi the position from P11 up to P7. And Kelly has unfortunately lost a few positions. I wonder if he was involved in any of the incidents at the front of the field. Shanae with the fastest lap, a 146.5, so we will see very similar times to qualifying as a side-by-side for Kelly behind. Down into turn 1, we'll see if he's able to make up the position as easily as his teammate did, braking just after the orange marker, or a little bit later. Kelly is not on the dry line, though, so unfortunately he will not make up a position. He will get an off-track for that little bit of a cut you saw, taking all of the curbing there. Wabi does go down a position, and the BMW does go up a place in P17. So, a nice little battle from them as they continue to go side-by-side, or continue to go side-by-side ahead. Jay Spinner making the defense on Thondir, or making up the overtake on Thondir. Regardless, it doesn't matter as Thondir goes off the track and loses a bunch of positions for it. And Uzubi does close in on the top 6. So very exciting race start. Lots of incidents here for the race start of the Imola race. It is very tricky conditions. We expected a lot of incidents, and we got a lot of incidents. So unfortunate for the drivers involved in those incidents, but some drivers will be benefiting from it, especially drivers towards the back of the field where they were not in contention before, but now they most certainly are as they gain those positions on cars that are off track, gain positions on cars that now have damage and are much slower. GT3 cars can take a lot of beating before they start to slow down, but it only takes so much before the cars have issues. Uzubi thinks about going down the inside, but there's just not going to be space. He will draft on the straightaway and hopefully make the overtake down into turn 1, as the draft through Imola is quite intense, although he does not get quite as good an exit as Hutama in front. Hutama did have the wider line, so Uzubi will need to dive if he wants to make the move. And he will dive to make the move as they go side by side down into turn 1. Very, very late on the brakes, but he manages to make it. And Crunchon tries to follow him through, though just not going to find the space he needs to make that move. Kelly down to P9 after starting P7, so Uzubi's teammate not doing nearly as well as he is. And Jay Lin closing in on the top 3 with just 0.6 of a second. So, very exciting race start from our drivers here as Wolfie moves up into P22. We will see him close in on the top 20, onto those top points finish positions. A three-way battle here, and a little bit close at the front of the field. Tashini is within a second, or at least was within a second, of Shanae up in first place. Kelly does show himself to the inside, although he will not be able to make the move. And Jaylin getting very close to Thiessen in front. Thiessen will not get the exit he needs, so Jaylin very well may make the move here as they go down towards what is the few trickiest corners to make a move on this track. It is better just to wait for the straightaway and draft down into turn 1. Kelly does finally make the move on Crunchon, so a nice little overtake from him. We'll keep an eye on Jaylin as we don't get to see the overtake as my replay does not go far enough. And I need a way to just exit the replay as I don't need to see it anymore. But down the straightaway, BMW much quicker in a straight line will threaten Kelly down in turn 1. if he is not careful. But it's going to be side by side for the two BMWs as they go towards turn 1. Crunchon does defend very, very aggressive, very late, but it was not a reactionary move. And he does just bump Kelly wide. He will need to give up the position, and he does give up the position. So a little bit of a mistake from the BMW driver, but a respectful mistake nonetheless, as he does return the position that he unfairly could have gained. But it's a 5-way car battle for P8 right now. All drivers behind Kelly right now are going to start fighting, hopefully falling off the back as we see the McLaren dives down the inside side by side. That BMW was on the dry line, no longer on the dry line as they go side by side. Arc manages to hold it around the outside for the defense. And they are going to continue this little battle as we go on. That does drag them away from the 3 cars up in front of them. What was a half-second gap is now a full second gap. And the McLaren is going to want to keep on fighting until he gets that position, as you don't want to be stuck behind another car, especially in the rain where visibility is so difficult. We will go into the passenger cam. Not very much difficulty with visibility, I suppose, as no windshield wiper and the BMW driver can see perfectly fine out that window. So I am mistaken, as Jay Lung getting very close for P20. He's going to go side by side with the McLaren driver, and he's going to dive down into the chicane and manages to make the move into that points-paying position. Jay Lin closing in on Thiessen in front. 0.2 of a second for a minute there. It does seem like Thiessen has been making some mistakes, as Thiessen has fallen 3 seconds back from P3. So an exciting little race here, as we do see a couple drivers moving up a position towards the back of the field, although I can't keep up with all 30 cars. I do just keep track of the points positions. So if you are outside of those points positions, it's unlikely I will be able to see your moves and see your overtakes. So for those, I recommend Fingersome Sport does have a highlights section. Save the replays, share those highlights, as there's plenty that I miss while I'm commentating on track. But speaking of missing, the McLaren's going to miss the apex and allow the Lexus a little bit of a run down the uphill section, or up the uphill section. Lexus does not make a move of it, though. Lexus is quite a good wet weather car, and we will see him go side by side down into a very tricky section of track. Lexus will just back out, or Lexus will just run a little bit wide. As I was saying, Lexus is quite a good wet weather car. It has a lot of power, it has a lot of top speed, and the brakes aren't as good on the Lexus, but you mitigate that weakness with the standing water, as he does move up into P13. So a nice move from the Lexus driver on the American McLaren. And Crunchon still right behind Kelly for this little 3-car battle as they go down onto the straightaway. Kelly in that number 91 Ferrari. And his teammate ahead is only in P6. So from winning Hungaroring, he has fallen back significantly with just a bad strategy call, as we do see the BMW go through and tag into the back of Kelly. Kelly does manage to hold onto the car, though. It will damage him a little bit, but I believe Crunchon has suffered more than any other driver as he moves down into P14. A very, very close spread for the field so far, as we see Thondir going off onto the grass for the braking zone of turn 1. Thinks about the move, in fact does make the move as they go side by side. And ooh, big bump from Thondir. Thankfully, Spinner manages to keep control of the car. And this little battle is going to continue on for P16. Thankfully, everything has gone smoothly. So once this battle does end, we will go and look at some of the lap 1 incidents. But it's seeming unlikely, as John thinks about the move, very close, and does make the move. A dive down the inside as Thondir runs wide. The pressure got to him, and that will be the overtake for John. Will John make it 2? no, does not dive down the inside of the Ferrari, and just manages to, or just decides to stay behind and stay safe, as he does look like he's going to be closing in, and they are going to go side by side into the chicane. John, with a fantastic little double overtake, manages to make 2 moves in just 1 lap. So, very nice from him as the Audi makes up a position on the BMW. The BMW just losing out a little bit. That is that livery we were talking about we would see a little bit later on, and now we do see it as it is in P20, right where it started. But not for very long, as it goes up to P19. Mohammed driving that car fantastically. Does have a little bit of damage on the front, so he was certainly involved in an incident. And what incident per tell, we will find out once we do penalty review. After all, we do penalty review after the races on Tuesdays. As Spinner goes off the track, just seeing him in the distance, I wonder if he was involved in an incident with another driver or if that was his own mistake. But he will lose out plenty of positions and he will clatter into the wall. As said, the first sector with those close walls, you are going to lose time, and yeah, unfortunately, it has happened where a driver has gone off and lost time. So Kevin up into P18, and that BMW, Mohammed, up into P17. Tashini closing in on the front of the field here. BMW in a straight line compared to the Lamborghini, very similar cars. So we will not see the pass on the straightaway, but we may well see a pass later on, as Arct does close in to the BMW of Altivo. And Altivo closes in on the Ferrari of Kelly. Kelly is still trying to hunt down his teammate, P8, so he has lost a position from where he started. And if he's not careful, he's going to lose a position to this BMW down into turn 1. So dives down into turn 1. Will we see the BMW make a move? No. The BMW just brakes a little bit early, stays behind, and stays safe for now. Kelly's going to be thankful for that, knowing that he has a driver behind who does not want to make the overtake too quickly, as Arct does want to make the overtake very quickly, almost goes side by side down into the start of Sector 2. So close from the BMW drivers, but just keeping safe for now. Oh, Connor, you got a disqualification bug. That's unfortunate. Yeah, there is a bug in ACC where it will send you into the pit lane. I do believe I haven't personally seen it. I do believe if you just hit drive sooner, you'll be fine. It sends you in just a little bit early, but as long as you hit drive within the first 20 seconds of the timer, you should be perfectly fine, and your tires aren't going to drop temperature enough for that to matter, as the front of the field does pass a blue flag car. Tashini very close into turn 1. He's going to go side by side with Shanae down into turn 1 for first place. Will he be able to hold it around that outside line? I think there was a little bit of contact, a little bit of rubbing, although both drivers keep on going. He's doing very, very well. He was close at Hungaroring, and he's even closer here at Imola. It is a battle for the top 3, as Thiessen in P3 is sticking right with them. So 3 cars all very close for these top spots, and passing another blue flag car. Blue flag cars will play an impact here, as with this many cars on track and this much difference in pace, drivers will start to fall back, drivers will hold up the leaders, and if you get a bad run out of a corner in a battle this close, you'll most certainly lose a position, or a position or 2, given we have 3 drivers for the top spot, all within a second of each other. Tashini does run off the track. He will defend a little bit, but he's not going to have to worry into the chicane, as Thiessen does not decide to make the move and does not decide to go for it. Jay Lin closing in on the top 3, so we have a 4-way battle for first place. The top four separated by only 2 seconds. So everyone within half a second of each other, essentially, as Jalen just falls back a little bit, and Thiessen is closing in significantly to the BMW of Tashini. A very exciting race, as Kiri will almost make a move on Spinner down in P22. We don't need to click over to that, as well, as we do have a battle for first place right now. And a battle I would much rather not miss, as Tashini runs all the way onto the grass, manages to just keep control of the car. Thiessen closing in on the back of that BMW driver. And we will see if he's managing, or if he does manage to make a move or not. Driving this close, it would be very difficult to make a move. And fastest lap right now does go to Jay Lin in P4 in that McLaren. Current best right now for the top three is all within a tenth. So the top three very, very close together. And Jay Lin just a tenth faster than all of them. Although Jay Lin is not setting the pace he needs to close in with the front runners as much as he would like to. As 1.2 seconds back, he did set the fastest last lap, but he will not manage to close in very much right now. So battle for the front is quite intense. We will finally have a chance to go back and look at what happened on lap 1. Hopefully see what happened on lap 1. No, we will not see what happened on lap 1, as Thiessen goes side by side, or thinks about making it side by side on the straightaway, getting a better run out of the corner, as Tashini just doesn't get the run he needs. And Thiessen will no doubt go for this move, as he brakes late for turn 1. And he's just stuck behind the BMW, won't be able to make up the move, although it was his closest attempt so far. So a great battle we're witnessing here for the front runners. And it does not look like we'll have a chance to look at those lap 1 incidents until much later on. A position change for some of the drivers towards the back of the field, as a few drivers have to go into the pit lane. Wonder if they brought wet tires early on, and those wet tires are finally starting to drop off. The wet tires not made for these greasy conditions. And as Tashini hits that curb and loses control of the car, he will go down to P4, might be even P5 if Andrew Taggart does make up enough time, but Andrew does not. Andrew is just 2 seconds back now, though, so certainly a possible position for him, as Tashini goes from second in the race to fourth in this race, and Thiessen does get promoted up to P2, and Jay Lin promoted up to P3. So an unlikely podium may well be more likely than thought. We are watching Uzbi right now, closing in on the back of Andrew. And down on that straightaway, he will get a good run, or he's hoping to get a good run down into turn 1 and see if he can't make up the move into that first sector. The first sector is very tricky, as we do see Kelly losing 2 positions. So I wonder if Kelly just had a little bit of a mistake and dropping back to P10 for Uzbi's teammate. Uzbi will have to stay behind the McLaren. And very unstable for Andrew up in front, as he goes bouncing over those curbs. Yeah, it's unfortunate. Tashini just made a small mistake, hit the curb, and lost control of the car, and that's going to cost him in the long run. It's going to cost him in the short run as well, wearing down those tires more than he needs to in conditions where keeping the tires alive is essential. Andrew will catch up to a blue flag car, who will just let him by nice and quickly. Uzubi still closing in on the back of that marvelous McLaren, staring at the back of that marvelous McLaren. You can see the gaps more accurately from this camera position as his teammate does make up a position. We will go on board and see how Kelly managed to do it, as just a little bit of a dive down into, I believe, the hairpin, and just making up the move. Nice and simple. So a great move from the Ferrari driver, from the Italian stallion, to put himself back up into P9 and chase down Arct for P8, and hopefully Hutama for P7, his original starting position. As we see Uzubi come across the line yet again, stuck behind that McLaren. He will not be able to make the move from this far back. You can see just how much space there is up in front of him. So we will finally have a chance to view those lap 1 incidents. This was the lap 1 incident with, suppose we will find out. Odd. There was nothing there. But this will be the big turn 1 incident we saw, where a bunch of drivers were off onto the grass. A bunch of drivers collected each other? No, my replay is not working. So that is unfortunate. As Kevin is going to go side by side with the BMW down into turn 1. Will he be able to dive down the inside? No, brakes just a little bit early, slots back in behind. So taking it nice and safe for the number 92 driver. It's unfortunate we can't see those lap 1 incidents because there was a lot happening. There was a lot happening and I wanted to see. But my replay is not working, so we will not be able to see which cars were involved in that big pileup. It was basically directly onto the straightaway. Had a bunch of drivers collect each other before turn 1, so a big incident at the front of the field that, or big incident in the midfield that unfortunately we had some expectation that something was going to happen, but not something like that. As Thunder does make a little mistake, runs wide, falls off the back of Kevin, and Kevin gets a much better run than the BMW. Again, I believe Kevin is the fastest car in this little battle, although he is stuck behind, so he will not be able to make up a position, as the best laps do show. Kevin is the fastest in this group. Andrew has caught up with Tashini for P4, and Uzubi right behind him for potential P5 or P4 himself. So Tashini under big threat right now, from 2nd in the race to 4th in the race, and potentially he will drop back to 6th in the race if he is unlucky. As Jay Long makes up the position on Harvey. It looks like just a little bit of a mistake from Harvey is going to give the position to the Lamborghini driver. Lamborghini getting a much better exit and does make up the position well before the corner, so it was just a mistake from Harvey in that beautiful McLaren. As a marvelous McLaren does lose out a position, Andrew Taggart just running a little bit wide and loses the position to Uzubi. So Uzubi up into P5 will chase down the top 4. So fantastic drive from him after a huge qualifying mistake. Although Andrew Taggart will come back at him down into turn 1. He does have the run. He does have the overspeed. And he's going to go side by side around to the outside. Just breaks a little bit early though. And Uzubi manages to hold on to the position for now, unless Andrew gets a better run into the next series of corners, which he most certainly will, as he does take a much wider line and into the very heavy braking zone. A very easy corner to stay close, as the braking is light. The braking is very long, very extended. So Drivers have plenty of time to get the car slowed down adequately, even while behind another car. So Andrew will continue to try and stay with Uzubi here. The draft will help him, as cars in the rain run much higher wing settings than in the dry, and most certainly will be running a higher wing setting than Imola requires. And his teammate thinks about a move on the BMW down into turn 1 with a very nice run on the straightaway thing. Unfortunately, does not manage to make up the position. Thankfully, no incident yet for the fellow Marvelous McLaren. I believe his car is all in one piece, as we don't see any visual damage. Oh no, we do see quite a bit of visual damage on the side of the car, so has been involved in quite a number of accidents. But he'll be basically pushing this BMW out of the corner with just 0.1 of a second separating them. You'll see a lot of drivers look to make a move. They sit on that inside line, and then they do not make the move. As Shanae goes off the track, and it looks like he's just lost connection to the server. So Shanae will be out of this race, from leading this race, from comfortably leading this race, to out of this race for the Lamborghini driver. That is awful to see, as that does promote Thiessen up into P1. But no, we don't want to see a driver going off the track. You can see the camera just focusing on the grass, as well, there's no more car for it to focus on, so it just focuses on the last position that we ever saw him. So Shanae will be out of this race 15 minutes early, so he will not complete 90% race distances. He will not complete 90% race distance. He will not earn any points for this race. So that is Shanae out of contention, which we never want to see. I mean, we've seen it before. It's happened to me as well. You don't want to see drivers losing connection to the server. You don't want to see drivers losing a position like that, especially when Shanae was so surefire for P1. As we do see the Sim Racing Brotherhood car dive down the inside of the hairpin. BMW just outbraking himself a little bit. He will try and stay with them and try and make up the move. But speaking of staying with, Uzubi has caught back up to Tashini, and Andrew is still right with the Ferrari driver. So very close pace, very close spread in the field right now, with a lot of battling at the front. These difficult conditions are difficult for everyone, including our very talented drivers. As we do see Andrew taking a page out of my book and flashing those front headlights. Very distracting, very attention-taking. Those flashing headlights don't mean anything more than, hey, look at me, and it's a tool to get your opponent distracted, a tool to get the driver in front to make a mistake when they otherwise wouldn't. Yeah, Shanae just confirming it in the chat. Shanae did disconnect. His whole game froze up, and that will be the end of his race, having to retire early. It's unfortunate to see. Shanae, we expected to see you cross the line first, and in my eyes, you still would have had the position. You still would have had that first place. You were running a fantastic race. It does mean that we do have a battle for the podium, though, right now, with Uzubi still within half a second. So do see a car slow to the side of the track. He will not be in this battle, though, and he will just stay nicely off the racing line for our top 5 drivers. And down into turn 1 we go once more. Maverick is a driver who has not finished in the top 3 for quite a while. His qualifying did speak to his ability to put the car on the front when it is difficult. He did very well at Bathurst with the same thing, managing P3 after just the first lap, although there was an incident between me and him when we did race Bathurst last. So he did unfortunately lose out on that position, but he is a driver who has proved himself on difficult tracks in difficult conditions. He is a driver who keeps the car planted, keeps consistent, and we'll see if he's able to keep up that consistency behind an equally consistent driver with Uzubi, who has run at the front of the field for several seasons now. He has consistently been in the top 3, and right now, well, that bad strategy from him is going to cost him quite a lot, as it already has cost him quite a lot, with only being P4, only 11 minutes to go for this P3 position, where Uzubi did unfortunately qualify only P11, so he has gained 6 positions. No, 7 positions this race already. So he has been driving fantastic. Jalen does close in to Thiessen up in front. Jalen with the fastest last lap. And it seems like Thiessen just having a big mistake, as Thiessen was a second slower than Jalen. So if that keeps up, Jalen will be right on the bumper of that AMG in just a single lap's time. Yellow flag for the 9th place driver does go down into 11th. The McLaren spinning off the road and does promote Kelly and Scotton up a position. Uzubi getting very, very close to that BMW driver with just 0.2 of a second separating them. And the gaps are not very spread out here. We expected to see a lot more spread between the field, but there's a lot of battles. And more importantly than that, a lot of battles at the front of the field. As Uzubi does close in just a little bit more. You can see how close he is driving to the car in front. Very tricky section here, and Uzubi still isn't getting it quite right. I talked about it a little bit yesterday with our practice race that he was struggling with the chicane, and he's still struggling with that chicane. But you can see how late they brake, as the track is essentially dry right now, as Taggart is going to get a much better run through the first corner, although he won't be able to do anything through the second corner. He will steadily close in on that Ferrari, though. The McLaren a little bit quicker on the initial part of straightaways. The Ferrari a little bit quicker on the latter part of straightaways. And you can see that dry line very clearly in the helicopter cam. Where the cars have been driving, the track will start to dry out. You can see drivers managing to use all of the track. Tashini off the track. I thought that was a blue flag car. No, Tashini losing out 2 positions, just running a little bit wide. So what was second place is now 5th place for the BMW driver. So it's unfortunate to see him falling back like this. Really struggling in that BMW. As we saw him struggle a lot in Hungaroring as well. Later into the race, Tashini is just losing out a little bit of pace and falling back. He does make up that initial time, but as soon as the race has gone on for a while, he just starts to lose time. And that will promote Taggart up into 4th place, and that will promote Uzubi up into 3rd place. So Uzubi has gone from 11th position all the way to a podium, as Taggart does hit the curb and lose a bunch of speed. Tashini does have to slow down to avoid driving into the back of the McLaren driver. So we will see nothing come of that, as Tashini goes very late on the brakes and bumps into the back of the McLaren driver. Andrew loses out a little bit of time, gets a little bit damaged, but Tashini has essentially punished himself already, falling 6 seconds back and now 7 seconds back as they cross the start-finish line. So he has essentially served a penalty already for his mistake. And Kelly, teammate of Uzubi, closing into the back of that Lexus driver, the Lexus we saw very far forward on the field. Apologies, I am very tired this morning, as we see Kevin loses a position, then gains that position back. So holds it around the outside. He does run off the track, so he will need to return that position, lest he want a penalty, as he did make the overtake by putting all 4 wheels off the track. So we will hopefully see him give up that position. And if he does not, the driver behind is liable to report him for it. And we do not see him giving up the position, so he will hold on to it. And he will need to outdrive the car behind in order to hold on to it after the penalty. Sim Racing Brotherhood, a car we've seen moving farther and farther forward on the field, is up into P10 with a move on the McLaren driver. Nearly makes a collision with the McLaren behind. Although I believe the McLaren did have a collision with him. So unfortunate little incident. Although I believe that the Lamborghini might have been all clear. I don't believe the McLaren was I don't believe the Lamborghini was responsible for that incident. We will find out after penalty review, though, whether or not he holds onto his position. A couple drivers lost position last race due to penalties. I don't have the tables in front of me, but there was quite a few penalties for Chris, Arkt, Antonio, Thiessen, Andrew Taggart, Ramazzotti. I think that is all of the penalties. I might have gotten one wrong. So I apologize if I did miss something. A close battle for the Audi driver is going to get passed by a faster car in a minute here. But he is closing into that bronze McLaren up in front of him. And hopefully going to make the move on that bronze McLaren up in front of him. The field has finally settled down a little bit. Jay Lynn just a second back from Thiessen in front as we see the Nissan going off the track. Nissan not losing any positions here as he was not fighting for any positions here in the first place. So these two will go on. And Wabi is going to fall back from the back of that McLaren. We will see once again if we can see anything that happened during lap 1. Nope. My replay is just not working. So there is that initial contact that we saw. You can see just a glimpse of the aftermath where huge lap 1 incident, and that will be big penalties for whoever was responsible. It will be a multi-car collision and potentially stacking all of the damage it caused all of those cars. We do run a stacking penalty system where if your incident is severe enough, you will get a penalty for extra penalty infractions that happen afterwards. So I cannot just drive straight into 15 cars and expect to get out with just a multi-car 2 or just spinning out a driver. But we do see Andrew was closing in a little bit, has fallen back significantly from the Ferrari driver. So he will essentially hold on to P4 and Uzaby will hold on to P3. Thiessen has done a wonderful job keeping it in P1, as he has a 1.5 second gap to Jay-Lin in P2. Jay-Lin still with the fastest lap of the race, still with the fastest lap last lap. So Jay-Lin is setting the best pace of any driver right now, and steadily closing in, but it's not going to be enough. With just 2 minutes left in the race, it'll take a mistake, and a big mistake at that, from Thiessen in order to lose out on the position. We do see a little bit of an overtake, a little bit of a battle at the back of the field, as Kiri does move up a position in that very, very brightly colored Ferrari. Veras will want to fight back, although he will not get much of a chance to fight back as he has to let a faster car through. He is a blue flagged car, and if you are the blue flag car, you must give way within 2 sectors time, essentially, as you have this and the next sector, or it may well be a blue flagged car trying to unlap himself. This late into the race, it's pretty much not worth it to do anything too dangerous unless you know you're going to get a penalty, and you have to make up that time in order to avoid the penalty. But even then, battling will lose you time, and with just a minute on the clock, we will get one more lap of racing, as Thiessen will cross the line before 0 seconds. But it seems like our official results are going to be Thiessen, then Jay-Lin, then Uzaby, then Andrew Taggart, as Shanae has managed to reconnect to the server and does take the fastest lap. He will be in P31, so unfortunate for him. He was leading the race, and he was the driver to root for. The track has stayed very light rain all race, so I wonder if drivers were on wet tires, if they were on dry tires. And if a driver was on wet tires, they will certainly be feeling the effects of those wet tires now. If they were on dry tires, they will be having a much better time of it, as Andrew makes it past the, tries to make it past the blue flag car, runs out onto the grass, but manages to keep control of the car, and even closes in on Uzaby a little bit, so you gotta wonder if he's just braking a little bit too early, if the grass is slowing him down enough to get the car at a reasonable speed. As Jay-Lin has closed in within a second of P1, but it's going to be a little bit too little too late. Andrew Taggart, though, is close enough to make a move, especially as Uzaby gets held up through the hairpin by that V12 Aston Martin. V12 Aston Martin does let him by, though, so he will stay in front, but it is 0.5 of a second, 0.4 of a second as they go through the middle sector. And it's going to be a race to the line for the McLaren and the Ferrari. Uzaby wants to hold on to P3 for his championship. Andrew Taggart wants his first P3 for the season. So we'll see where these two end up as they get closer and closer. Andrew is closing in. He's pushing flat out through the chicane. A much better run for the McLaren driver is going to manage to stay just closer and closer. And it's going to take a mistake from the Ferrari driver now in order to make up that position. As 0.3 of a second, diving down on the brakes, tries to make a move down the inside. 0.2 of a second now, back to 0.3. It's going to be very close across the line, but Andrew is not going to be able to make the overtake, and Uzaby is going to hold on to that position. Whether or not they have penalties is to be seen as they go side by side across the line. And my gap only says 0 seconds. I believe Uzaby got P3, but that got very, very close. I will need to see a replay of that as they go down through the final corner and onto the straightaway. Who took the position there? I believe Uzaby held on to it, but only just barely held on to it as they go side by side across the line. What a way to finish for the Imola race, with just 0 seconds separating them, and side by side across the line. Barely a nose length, as a bunch of drivers colliding at the end of the race. Will receive a penalty for that if they are not careful. And Shanae has disconnected yet again. Thankfully, he does cross the line, so he does get to finish the race. It is not a DNF for the Lamborghini driver. Unfortunate for him that it turned out that way. But the race is not yet over, with Kevin closing in on the back of the McLaren for P12. This is Andrew's teammate, and not going to be able to make the overtake. It is 0.2, 0.1 of a second as they cross the line, but it is not going to be enough to make the move. Seal Harvey manages to hold on to P11, so he will score good points for that McLaren, as we can see the fireworks mixing with the rain already. So it is Thiessen in P1, a fantastic drive from the AMG driver, Jalen, rounding it out in P2, and Uzubi managing an unlikely P3. Unfortunately, Shanae disconnecting, so Shanae will not score points this race. Tashini, who was in P2, has fallen back into P4, so unfortunate to see for him. No, my timing is wrong. Maverick finished P4. All right, ignore anything I have said, because I got it all wrong. So a fantastic race from our drivers, and well, I hope you will all join us for next week. Next week we are racing. Next week we are racing Nürburgring, a 60-minute cloudy race. So all season long there will be a chance for wet weather racing, as we do have randomized weather. So stay tuned for that. And without further ado, I'm going to close off the live stream. Thank you all for joining live, or if you're watching it after the fact, thank you for being here. And to all of our drivers, thank you for a wonderful, wonderful race.